My wife knows that I love animals, but she stomped on a chicken fetus for fun and laughed about it. Now I'm second guessing if I've just been a laughingstock to her for our entire marriage. I'm posting here because my wife does not use Reddit or even really know what it is, and I can't speak to anyone else about this except my therapist. I've tried asking friends and family, but none of them understand the gravity of what I'm saying, honestly. I'm a 37-year-old man, and my lovely wife, 36, and I have little to no problems with each other. However, after noticing small things that are adding up to a rather terrifying level, I'm not sure I can ignore it anymore. She's a great person. She has done so much for me throughout our marriage in respects that I do not want to have bedroom intimacy after a rather traumatizing experience that I don't need to get into. She does little things that show she listens and cares about me, and I do the same for her. I want to stay with her because we've been married for 10 years now, and she is all I know, but lately, I just don't know what's going on or why she's acting the way she is. The first notable incident was when we found an egg on the curb. We assumed it was from our neighbor, given that they have chickens and maybe an egg rolled out or something. Without a second thought, my wife stomped on the egg. Now, I would have been fine if it had been an infertile egg or a cooking egg with nothing in it, but there was an entire fetus, and I threw up. She laughed, saying it was funny and at least the neighbors don't have to worry about another chicken. I told myself that it was just an egg, and she had no idea there would be a fetus in it, but her reaction afterward rattled me. I brushed it off because, like I said, I love her. Maybe that is stupid, but I do. I really love her. But the incidents continued, and my love for her is wavering. Some notable things I remember are listed below. We have a dog, we'll call him Butter. Butter is the calmest dog in the world, housebroken, and well trained. However, one time, he was very sick and irritated, and he went number 2 on the carpet. My wife screamed at Butter, and I mean really screamed. I told her to stop because the damage was already done, and Butter is a sick dog. I cleaned the carpet, and she never blew up at Butter again, but it rubbed me the wrong way how mean she was to him. I understand that she was frustrated, but Butter started crying and trying to give her his paw, and she kept screaming at him. My mom passed in 2020, natural causes, but I was very close with her, and it took me many years to accept it. I keep her favorite bracelet on a table with family photos of her and me. One day, it was missing, and I had a panic attack. The bracelet was made by my mom's grandfather, and she wore it every day. It was a part of her. When I told my wife, she said she had sold it. I sobbed. I wasn't mad at her, just devastated. But soon after, the bracelet was back on the table, and when I asked her about it, she started laughing and said, "You should have seen your face." When we were gardening, I noticed I had dropped my keys. She was grouchy since it was hot and she had been planting flowers since the morning. When she found them, she threw them at my face, and they cut my nose. She felt horrible, but that reaction threw me off. One time after work on Halloween, I was feeling particularly depressed for no reason. I don't blame her for this, but she played a prank on me and jump scared me, something we do every Halloween. I started crying and having a breakdown because it was kind of the last straw for me after my shift. She laughed and kept laughing, then went back to the living room to watch TV. One time on Facebook, we found out that a classmate had been in a car accident. I told her, and she shrugged, saying she didn't really know her, so it didn't matter. It's okay for her not to care about the victim, but the poor girl was heavily injured, and my memories of her from school were pleasant. She genuinely didn't deserve what happened. My wife and I love horror. We are horror fans, but I cannot stand violence against animals, it disturbs me. So, when we put on When Evil Lurks, as you can imagine, I threw up. The kicker is that she had already seen it but wanted to watch it with me since she loves it so much. I'm happy she loves it, but I would have appreciated a warning, which I vocalized. She shrugged it off, and that was that. That's just a few incidents, but the worst of it happened just yesterday. I tried my hardest not to say anything, but it might be my last straw. I was cleaning our room while my wife was at work, and I found a journal buried underneath the mattress as I was swapping sheets. For some reason, I opened it and quickly realized it was my wife's diary. I would have put it back if I hadn't seen the words on the page. I was horrified. She wrote that while driving, there was a line of geese crossing the street. Annoying, yes, but the thing you're supposed to do is wait. My wife wrote that geese are a useless species, so it shouldn't matter if a few get run over. Yes, she just ran over 2 geese on the road. Again, I was horrified. I know what people will say, so I'm going to answer a few questions. I love her. I recognize that sometimes her behavior is unacceptable and concerning. I understand the concern, which is why I'm here in the first place. But you have to realize that for the past 16 years, she's been my world. We dated for 6 years before getting married, and it's been 10 years since our wedding. In those 16 years, I've witnessed her go through horrific things, and she's witnessed the same. It's hard to sum up those 16 years, but it's difficult, and I'm already saying too much. I noticed the change over the past 3 or so years. Even then, in the moment, I didn't see it as an issue until reading that little journal entry. I can't just leave her, but I can't act the same around her after finding that out. I realize I need to confront her about what I saw, but truthfully, I am afraid. I never knew she was capable of something like this until I read it and started putting the pieces together. Whatever is going on, I don't know how to handle it. She has a therapist, and so do I. She seems genuine. But I don't know what to do, knowing she willingly ran over an animal without any remorse. Honestly, I just don't want to leave her. I met her young, and all I know is her. She's seen me through the most vulnerable parts of my life, and I've done the same for her. Our families are basically intertwined. We all love each other. She's been in my life longer than she hasn't. If I have to leave her, I think that will be it for me. That'll be all I have. I'm 37, which isn't old but also not the most desirable age to start over. I don't even know why she had a crush on me because I personally don't think I'm desirable. I don't even know if this post will make sense. I don't know if anyone will take the time out of their day to read about my struggles. My therapist is on vacation, so I can't tell her yet. I need someone to talk to because everyone I've told brushes it off since she's a very sweet person to them. I just want to fix this. Edit. When I said she's witnessed horrific things, I mean that a family member of hers passed, and one of our mutual friends passed as well. But these events didn't happen until months later. We have no kids. I had a rough experience I won't go into that made me realize I am asexual. I'll ask her about that later. Commenter. You have low self-esteem, that much is obvious from the way you write and describe yourself. That is why you want to stay with a woman who has no empathy, takes pleasure in animals being harmed, even running them over, and while this would normally be unnerving and freak someone out, you seem keen to turn a blind eye. People who harm animals and take pleasure in it start with animals, but it escalates to human beings. I'm so glad you don't have any kids with her. You have said you don't want to leave her, and strangely, you seem to believe that at the age of 37, you're on the shelf. You talk about families being intertwined and that you've known her for years and years, so what? People get divorced after years of having enmeshed lives, mutual friends, shared assets, children, pets, etc. So what if you share these things or have been together for years? Is that reason enough to ignore and turn a blind eye to what sounds like psychopathic behavior? She seems genuine and she has a therapist. Well, she is very aware of how she comes across, and she wants you to remain in the marriage so she can continue to manipulate you. Of course, she can do all the right things and come across as cooperative and reflective. She's not silly at all, and she knows exactly what she is doing. She hasn't become this way, her mask slips every now and then, but she puts the mask back on to keep you where you are, exactly where she needs you to be. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm telling you, you don't know your wife like you think you do. Update 3 weeks later. Thank you for your comments and your time. I've had a long month, and there's a lot to say, but I honestly cannot stress enough how much your support and words, harsh or not, mean to me. I'll say what's been on my mind lately, but if anyone just came for this, I'm leaving my ex-wife, Anna, though we are still living together as I pack my things. I'm not really scared of her anymore, so that's her name. I sat down and had a conversation with her. Everything I wrote here was copy and pasted from Google Docs. I left out some details that were identifiable for both Anna and me. I showed it to her, and she blew up at me. I understand why she was angry. I did share information about our marriage and life on the internet, so her emotions were reasonable. But I started to get very irritable. She listened to the word vomit that just spewed out. She didn't interrupt or yell at me because I think she realized in that moment how badly it was all affecting me. I begged her to just hear me out, and surprisingly, she did. She admitted to me that she also recognized she was changing and told her therapist about it. Do I believe her? Not really. She said she's been scaring herself and has noticed her anger issues flaring up. And, as some of you predicted, she didn't want to give up bedroom intimacy, so she cheated on me with a guy she met at her job. Honestly, by the time she explained herself, I didn't care. Because I don't. With everything that has happened, this was the least shocking. I asked Anna, genuinely, if she loved the man she met, and she said yes, which hurt but also didn't seem like a surprise to me. I told Anna that if she didn't love me, I could divorce her and we could figure out the separation and home situation. She agreed far too quickly, but I was so emotionally exhausted and done with her that it didn't register how little she valued the marriage to just toss it out like it was nothing. I simply told her that for the next guy, she needs to get help. She agreed and said she would check herself into the hospital. Some of you suggested a tumor, but that wasn't the case. Her explanation was that the other man got her into some illicit substances. That's all I will say on that matter because it's all she told me. At this point, I don't even care what the reason was, because the impact was the same. Honestly, I'll forever kick myself for not recognizing the warning signs sooner. It should have never gotten to the point that it did, and while it may not be my fault, I'm haunted every day by the thought that I could have been smarter and stopped her from doing everything she did. When I say she wasn't always like this, I mean it. She didn't give a specific date for when her affair started, so I can't pinpoint it to an exact event. I miss the woman she used to be, the lovely girl I've known for almost 2 decades. I know this was something that had to be done, but no matter how many times I tell myself that, it doesn't make me feel any better. For those wanting to know, Butter is safe. He's a good boy, and he's staying with my sister while I pack up to leave. My wife never physically hurt him, but she has yelled at him a few times. It hurts not having him here all the time since my sister's house is 30 minutes away, but he's safe, and I actually get to see him tonight. I also informed my family about the situation. I didn't want to, but I knew it was necessary. They understand now and apologized for brushing off the situation. To be fair, I had downplayed it, so that could also be why they didn't see it as an issue. Her family knows we are splitting as well. As for me, I don't really have friends that are available that often, so I've spent most of my time alone in the house, thinking to myself. It was our house at one point. I remember when we first bought it and how excited she was. My best friend and I are going to eat out together soon, so that's something to look forward to. She's still admitted, and I don't hear from her because they take your phone away at the hospital. I hope she can recover, but after everything my therapist, family, best friend, and you all have said, I can't bring myself to stay with her. Breaking it off felt like ripping my own arm off. I was devastated, and I still am. She seemed distraught as well, but I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't think she doesn't care about me, I think there's a part of her that still cares. But maybe I'm just wishfully thinking. Even through everything, I can't be mad at her. But I know loving her isn't good for me. Is it wrong to forgive her? To see everything from her side? It hurts. It really does. I don't know anything but her. It feels like my life is over, even though it isn't. I don't want to date again, but I just want to connect with other people. It didn't click how isolated I was until I left, and I realize now that she is partly at fault for my lack of communication with anyone. If I had to conclude this jumbled mess of an update, it'd be this. I'm going to be fine. It's only been about 2 weeks, but they've been the longest 2 weeks of my life. I'm realizing that there are more people around who support and care about me. It's been really hard to accept that Anna was a disturbed individual who didn't love me. Sometimes, I still convince myself that she does, but everyone around me insists that she doesn't. I'm coming to terms with this. It's progress. After more than 16 years of being tormented by her, my perception of reality has been warped. It's truly not easy to go through this, and sometimes I want to go back to her. But I know that maybe someday I can find the woman, or man, who will love me the way I need to be loved. I'm working it out in therapy, and honestly, I'm still frightened of Anna. But I'm thankful that she was the catalyst for a new chapter in my life. I've learned a lot from this, mostly what love is and isn't. Thanks everyone, you guys have good perspectives on things. I can't say that Reddit fixed my problems, but I can say that leaving was a result of the extra push you all provided. I wish Anna the best, wherever the future takes her. While I'm sad that the future won't include me, I think this was the best for both of us, since she didn't seem to love me and I now fear her. This should be the end of my updates. I don't really see myself updating further unless something happens with her. I want to be done with this, and I want to move on.